Okay, welcome back to the Welsh Rugby Roundup show, the Dragons Balls. It is the usual two here, but we also have a guest who was here. First show. Joe Shep is with us, but also Rhian. Let's go to Rhian first. Ladies first, of course. Rhian, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm a lady, lovely. I'm fine, thank you. Again, it's been another week or fortnight since the last game, and we've lost a defence coach, and the sort of the fallout within the WRU seems to be increasing. So it's going to be quite interesting to see, based on the team we've had today, what's going to happen this tomorrow, and how Wales will deal with all this external pressure over the weekend.
Absolutely. Joe, how are you doing? Welcome back,
mate.
Great
to be back, guys, and a huge thank you for everything you're doing from the Three Bod Rugby group. The Welsh Rugby Roundup show is just going from strength to strength. And that's down to you two guys, persistently putting great content out. So, Thibaut, thank you very much for what you're doing on behalf of the group, guys. You've really made it your own, and everything that we wanted to see from a standalone show. So, and that's down to you, lads. So, thanks very much.
Absolutely. And so follow our Facebook pages, follow us on YouTube and everything like that. Just before we go ahead, you may notice that I've hit puberty over the past week. It's taken a while. I'm actually going this to raise money for Movember, which is a fantastic charity that raises funds and awareness for loads of different health issues that men face. And my passion really is with mental health, and that's what I'm raising money for. So if you want to support financially, that'd be amazing. There's a link in the description, but if you can't, then all I ask is that you share the page out onto various forums, etc. But anyway, let's get on to the game itself then. We'll start with Ireland, first of all, with Joe, to talk about Ireland. The Six Nations finished disappointingly against France. How would you summarise where Irish rugby is at the minute going into this Autumn Nations Cup?
To be honest, I don't think you can tell, to be frank. Some of the, we come on to the team in a second, but some of the basic omissions, I mean, the whole Cooney thing is just behind me. It's unbelievable. I think sometimes if you understand the rationale behind what a coach is trying to do, obviously, they're elite level professional coaches. You can't take that away from anybody. And all of the players they're chosen will always play the best that they can possibly play at any given time, whether it's Wales, whether it's Ireland, or whatever. Excuse me, but I'm not sure we understand the rationale behind. From a personal perspective, and even Bod's getting a little bit agitated over this. From a personal perspective, I think it's the one occasion when all of the teams in the Autumn Nations Cup can start looking forward towards France 23 and beyond. France, as we know, we've seen what they can do. They're already 18 months ahead of the game. England have put a whole stockpile of youngsters in, and Eddie's a very astute man, and doesn't matter whether Eddie always gets the result. There's always a rationale behind him building, even though to us and to some of the coaches in the Premiership, they don't always see that well. From an Irish perspective, it is hard to see where we're going. Some would want fundamental changes. Some were very sort of provincial biased and focused. So for me, I'm not really bothered about the results overall for these games. I'm interested in how we play and the tactics we play. We have got to stop the bish bash boshing of the centre. We have got to start offloading balls, fast balls out. Jameson Gibson Park hopefully will bring that into the game. James Lowe, very exciting. So he has brought new people in. Hugo Keenan's been a find on the boy on the wing. J Lowe's in on the other side now. We're expecting a bit of X Factor stuff from him. Jacob Stockdale in the back. There are still key positions, lads, I think is the issue that many Irish fans and others watching Ireland don't really get. We are struggling with a fullback position at the moment. We are struggling to and you need your 1, 2, and 3, don't you, in the depth in those positions. You've got the same problems with the Wales. We've discussed that. So 15 for me is still an issue. Love Jacob, but and I think if we're going to have him there, you've got to give him a bit more time, let him grow and develop into it. But we don't have as much time as perhaps we would. We've got this set of games, and if you're going to make Jacob Stockdale your fullback, just everybody get off his back. He's a human being. He's an immense talented player. Defensively, well, you've got your own opinions on him. I think he's a fine player. I just think give somebody a bit more support and he'll be grand. But leave him in that position. But we still need a 2 and a 3 behind that as well. So it's not just who's the mainstay, it's the 2 and 3. And then you've got utility players who, like Andrew Conway, who can play in the wing, who could come back as well. And the 10 and the 9 is an issue. There really are pivotal roles. We've just got a plethora. It's your own decision on the 6, 7, 8 in the backs, and we'll come on to those. But the 9 and 10 and the 15, I think, are the only sticking points. But tactically, I really want to see what Daddy Faz is going to do in the style of play. And as long as we see that building game on game and trying things, whether they come off or not, I personally, as an Irish fan, would be happy to see that moving forward. If that answers.
It's an interesting time for Irish rugby, that's for sure. And I'm going to come to Rhian first of all. We have to talk about it. Byron Hayward, this past week, leaving his role as the defence coach for Wales. Mutual agreement, according to various sources. What's your initial reaction to that news, Rhian?
I just feel, on the eve of these autumn tests, that it's a very bizarre time to suddenly, go, because he's bound, whether the rumours are true, whether he's lost the dressing room or whatever. I just think the timing of this has been a bit disruptive, and it then, it leaves a gap, isn't it? They're going into a match tomorrow, and there's bound to have been a disruption. So timing, very weird. Again, it is a bit worrying, because I know we've talked about this before, Brandon, is that the Welsh media, Welsh fans are very, very vocal, and you wonder how much of that is pressure because they're not having results. But in which case, why blame one coach? Because Pivot's been playing with him, been working with him for years. He's a young bloke who's probably not in a good place at the moment. You're given a job, you're built up, and then it's just all taken away from you. So I just sort of think there's a lot of rumours out there. Whenever I see someone's left a mutual agreement, it makes me God, that's not mutual at all. But I think they've just got to, they've got Gethin in there now for the time being. So you just have to make the best of it. But they need a win tomorrow. I also think Ireland need a win tomorrow. Both coaches then need that win tomorrow. And for that reason, I think, sort of the Welsh team reflects that bit of dilly-dallying. Some of the old guard need big games. This is a real test for Alan Wynne-Jones. He has to stand up to the plate. We know he's a great leader, but he has to be a great captain tomorrow, and he has to sort of lead from the front and put pay. It doesn't matter whether they're player power or who's lost the changing room. He needs to step up to the plate tomorrow and just make sure that team is out there hungry and playing for their very lives or playing for their places. And I don't think we've seen that in the last couple of games, but that's what we need to see tomorrow.
For sure, I think we need to see a lot more from the team. Joe, what's the Irish perspective of this Welsh team? What do the Irish rugby fans think about this team? Are you very confident going into this game, would you say?
No, I personally, I think when you see a team in disarray, you think that's going to affect them. It can galvanise them. We've seen that time and time again. So anybody is naive, whoever they are, whatever experience, is naive if they think that Wales are just going to turn up just because they've got a few problems within the wider organisation. But here's a thinking point, right? Everybody knows my sort of love affair with Sir Garen Watland. Well, excuse me, one of the things that I've started thinking about lately, especially over this, is I often thought that Sir Garen himself is a great coach, but maybe it was over-egged a little bit of just how good he was, because I think the players really formed the basis of the strength, the core, and they drove everything through. Now, if my assumption has been right over the years, maybe now that Wayne is in with other coaching team and they're trying to take a bit of that control back, maybe Warren, in fairness to him, had a light tiller on it and it worked well. He massaged them. Sean Edwards in defence. There was so much player power there, so strong as a bond. That's what made you so successful. And with Sean and with Warren, they just had a light tiller on what needed to do. New coaching staff coming in, maybe have a more of a stronger control over we determine, not the players, and maybe that's where it's coming from, and maybe it's starting to unravel a little bit. So that's just my take on that, and that so that might be. Hopefully it'll balance itself out, but I agree with Ree. Alan Wynne tomorrow has to really step up on the captaincy bit. He is a true leader. He's like the old Paul McConnell, but I think tomorrow it will be him driving that through if you're going to achieve where it are. So from an Irish perspective, it makes no difference what's going on, because I think that can galvanise a Welsh team. Because if it doesn't galvanise tomorrow, I think there's deeper issues going to come further on down the line.
I absolutely agree. And look at Howley just before the World Cup, losing him, and that did for a while galvanise the team. It brought them closer, and I think that, and I agree with you, Joe. You and I have different views on Sir Warren, but I think he knew how to make that team a team that was a very New Zealand, very all black sort of way of thinking. Is that they know each other so well that they know each other's next move. And I think maybe, although Pivac is from the same, he is a Kiwi, the ethos is different. And, we knew before the end of the Six Nations, before the outbreak, we could see glimpses of where Pivac wanted the team to play. And what I don't understand now is why he's still playing down bigger at number 10. To me, Patch would be far more his way of playing than Biggs, so is it as well that Pivac is being weighed down by expectations again? Because I think it's a hard job coaching Wales, because you are not just a coach of a team, you also have to understand the Welsh psyche and how to deal with the Welsh media, and I'm just perhaps it's a bit of what you say, Joe, and the players are just very confused about the way forward and where they're supposed to, how this new paradigm is working when you're still reverting back to the Gatland way of playing. So,
it's like United, isn't it? Very hard, replacing Sir Alex Ferguson with a quality manager in Moyes, and yet it just didn't work. And I'd hate that to happen, because I think Wayne is a great coach. I think he has proven himself, and I think that in time it will grow. But sometimes you're just trying to fill such a gap that we don't actually, in fairness to Warren, we don't appreciate how much you've done there. So I just hope that both teams turn tomorrow. Both, like I say, both got a lot to prove, and questions on both sides again. 15, 10, 9, maybe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I
Let's take a look at the. Go on, there you go.
About Pivac, that if you look back, and I've said this before, he takes 12 months to bed into a team, and that's bed his ethos into a team. And he hasn't. He's had 12 months on paper, but he hasn't actually had 12 months playing. So, the COVID has made a difference, because we're 12 months down the line, but actually, in reality, he's still a very new coach. So, yeah. Sorry, Brandon.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
I just can't stop talking.
Let's take a look at the Irish team then, and I'd be interested to get Joe's thoughts on this team. It should be up on the screen now. So starting with the fullbacks, then we have Stockdale. Then we have the wing partnership of Keenan and James Lowe, of course, born in Ireland, raised in Ireland, very Irish man. That's a little joke, but a brilliant player that's been tearing up Leinster over the past few years, and deservedly is in this team. Then there's a centre partnership of Henshaw and Farrell, with Gibson Park starting at 9, with Sexton at captain at 10. And then the forwards, Healy, Kelleher and Porter as the front row, with Henderson and Ryan as the locks. And then finishing it off, you have Omani, Doris and Van der Fleer. Joe, what do you think about that team? Are you happy with the selections? Is there anyone that you think, why are they in there? Or is there someone you'd like to see in there?
Sorry, I've just turning notifications off there. The Ulster guys obviously over. This isn't even live, and yet they'll be sort of subliminally, saying mention Cooney, mention McCluskey. And I think it's a pretty strong team overall. I think the way forward the future. I think young Ronan Kelleher is a fab hooker, and I think himself and Rob Herring will be sort of the 1-2 between them for moving forward for that. Again, Ty Furlong is still out injured. Keane Healy's getting a sort of. I'm a huge Keane Healy fan. I think he's absolutely fab. And Andrew Porter plays on both sides. So I think the front row actually is pretty strong and match whatever Wales are going to throw at us. Second row, Big Hendo and James Ryan. I mean, James Ryan just superb. That's you can't take anything away from that partnership. I mean, that's a good, strong partnership. And I think that in the engine room, that's going to be very good. Peter O'Mahony, Keelan Doris at 8. Fab, obviously giving CJ a bit of a break. I wasn't sure whether he was injured at first, but I think he's just given him a break. I mean, CJ has put some serious shifts in, and some serious leadership shifts in for me as well on the park, and led by example. So Josh van der Fleer, exceptional talent. Would I have had somebody else other than Peter O'Mahony in? I think with the plethora of players that you've got, I think you're going to see this team. You're going to see a lot of variations of the team over the sort of the 4 or 5 games that we'll be playing in this competition. So it's good. You can't knock Peter O'Mahony. I mean, he is a just proven skilled player. Depends just on your view set whether you're slightly biased to a player or whether you're looking to move forward. So I think the pack's pretty solid, and I think it'd be good. We just need to make sure we get our dart sorted and we build off that onto the set play. As for the backs, well. Again, there's the whole issue about John Cooney not playing. I just don't get it at all. But not even on the sub plan. And it's nothing against Boxy McBox kick against Connor. Conor Murray is a world-class player and has been a tremendous servant. But I just think that you've got to look at where players are moving forward. So if you've got Johnny Sexton in there because he's a skipper, Jameson Gibson Park is relatively new to the Irish setup. But they have a great partnership. They know each other from obviously from Leinster. So you can understand, excuse me, why that 9-10 partnership is there. So that's good. But on the replacement side of things, I just don't think that Conor Murray should be in there. And again, we should have been using that opportunity to look longer term. In the centre, obviously, we've lost a couple of players. Nothing wrong with Chris Farrell. Great, solid player. And I think that will temper the Welsh centre a little bit better than maybe certain other Irish players with. So I'm actually quite happy with that because I like Chris Farrell a lot. Jacob Stockdale, spoke about briefly before. I think you just got, if you're going to make him as fullback, keep him as fullback and get behind the lad, lock, stock and barrel. Again, Andrew Conway, maybe he's just rested him because obviously he's got J-Lo in. You couldn't take Hugo Keenan off because he's had, he's just been a blinder. An absolute fine. I think he'll get rested maybe after this. But I think he was just been trying to give Andy Farrell's been trying to give him a few games just to sort of bed in. And I think he's proved himself that he's bedded in well. So this will be his 3rd game on the trot, isn't it? I think, yeah. So I think that will be pretty cool. J-Lo, expecting some real fireworks from him. There are some questions about J-Lo, whether defensively he's a bit suspect, but do you know what? I don't give a monkey's toss. If we lost a try because of a defensive error, he's just going to be pilloried. He's just going to be burnt at the stake by the Irish community and a whole pile of other people as well, because he's been bigged up. However, when he turns it on, he is so strong and he can turn something from nothing. And I'm really hoping, I think he'll play J-Lo tomorrow, and I think he'll play them in the next 2 games. So I think he'll probably give him 2 or 3 games and see how that. And if that's the case, he may well leave Hugo Keenan in. It's nothing. We've got Earls on the bench as well, so that's good. So for me, it's a good, strong team. I don't get why Conor Murray is on the bench. I think we could have used that opportunity. Because either you're going to play him, but why have him as a sub? I don't get that at all. So for me, it's really that, and you could have had anybody in that 6, 7, 8. But it's a strong Irish team overall. That's a strong Irish team, and like I go back to saying, I want to tactically see them getting the ball up wide, using the. I hate 3 points. Everybody knows I hate 3-pointers, like I hate box kicks. I want to say every single time, I don't want to hear anybody, it's like, oh, well, tactically you build up points. Not interested. I was a forward, not a very good forward, but I was a prop. And so therefore, every time the 10 gets the ball, you kick it, you go line out, you go rolling more, you score a try, or you feed off the back of that. And that's the clearly I'm not Warren Gatland or Andy Farrell. So I don't know. But no, in all seriousness, I think it's a strong team. Just one or two players I just would have probably given other opportunities to build from. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it does look quite a strong team. Let's jump to the Wales team then and have a look at this one. Let's start once again with the fullback. So starting, as I said, why have I said that twice? I don't know. Starting with Lee Halfpenny then at fullback, with Liam Williams and Josh Adams on the wing. The centre partnership then of Owen Watkin and Jonathan Davis, and a halfback pairing of Gareth Davis and Dan Biggar. And then looking at the forwards then, you have Faletau at 8, Tipperick and Shane Lewis-Hughes in that back row there, with Alan Wynne-Jones as captain, once again, of course, with Will Rowlands. And then the forward then is Rhys Carré, Ryan Elias and Thomas Francis. Rian, what do you think about that team? Are you happy with the selections of Wayne Pivac? Do you think he's gone back to the Gatland style of team in a way?
Well, that's it. You see, with Joe could say, "Well, I can see what he's trying to do. I don't actually see where Pivac's going with this. There's some big names in this team that need to step up to the plate. Because I don't think over the last couple of games that they have. We're still missing Naveed so much. We really need to have him come back soon. Chips and Faletau need to have a really big game because they haven't come back yet to what they were. But in fact, they all the sort of senior players then really need to step up to the plate. But again, I'm not quite sure now where Pivac or what sort of game Pivac is trying to play against Ireland. It's almost as if this is a bit of a desperation team. Not that it's a bad team. It's actually on paper a very good team, but it's not necessarily the team I thought that Pivac would pick based on what he wants to play. So it's, which makes me think it's a bit of a make or break game. I don't know why he has Dan in it, and I don't know why he's put North back on the bench. I don't know what you think, Brandon, because obviously I like the fact that Callum Sheedy's on the bench, and I really hope he has some game time because we need to cap him. But I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
I agree with the George North point, and it's nothing against him personally. I just think he needs to go back to the Ospreys and play and get his confidence up. The Welsh media, you have to think about it. He burst onto the scene when he was 19 years old, 2 tries against South Africa, and he had a good couple of years and has had loads of concussions and injuries, went to Northampton, came back to Wales with the Ospreys. If I was him, he just needs to play for the Ospreys. The Welsh media isn't as focused on him. Wales aren't lying on beating him every week because they absolutely love to do that. So he just needs to get his confidence up. Dan Biggar, I think he's just a solid fly half, isn't he? He just does a job at the end of the day. Patchell,
he's been injured.
I think that was strange why they kept him on.
Times he was injured and they left him on, and that's not fair on the player to start off with. But I don't know.
I think Biggar, though, has got a sense of responsibility there where he needs to be honest and say to them, I need to come off here and not try and carry on. But that's his choice, and that's just what rugby players do. Sometimes they just say that they're fine when they're not. But I think
is Rhys Samet injured, lads? Is he, or is he just dropped?
He's still injured. Yeah, he's still injured. He had a little knock, so he's not available. But I think Callum Sheedy on the bench, exciting to see him come on. I don't understand why Patchell isn't in this squad. I really like Patchell. He can play fullback. He can play fly half. Could probably do a job in the centre, even if you needed him to. But on the whole, I'm quite happy with the team. I really like the look of Owen Watkin. I think he's brilliant. He's been so good for the Ospreys over the past few years. And for Wales, whenever he's played, he's stood up to the plate, and performed. And it's just because Hadley Parkes was there in front of him that he couldn't get much game time. So I like the look of the team. Do I believe that we're strong enough to beat Ireland? That's a whole nother question. So yeah, I'm happy with the team. I wouldn't change that much. The only person I maybe would get rid of is the hooker, Ryan Elias. I think he's struggled quite a bit over the past few games. I'd like to see Elliot D in there. But apart from that, I think it's quite a solid team on the whole. Joe, from an Irish point of view, where would Ireland look to target this team? Who could Ireland look to try and give a headache to?
I think the set piece, if it was me, because I think that the packs are fairly much equal. If you look at the packs, actually, I really do, and I agree. I'm a big fan of Josh Navidi, and I think he's fab. I think he's probably using Adam Wainwright as a finisher, if you need it for sort of 60 minutes upwards, or even maybe earlier. But I think if we get a good line out. That means it goes back to that point again of not taking bloody 3 points because you're struggling. It is getting the ball, hoofing it down, using the line out, maximising that as part of your set play piece. So I think that we'll edge in the pack and the forwards. And again, we can sort of use that off the back, especially with Jameson Gibson Park. His spatial awareness and his game management for scrum half it's a bit like almost the Peter Stringer and Faf de Klerk, Faf Pony. It's that their heads everywhere. They're playing snooker. They're 3 shots ahead, and that's why sometimes you also watch for Jameson Gibson Park. Sometimes you'll think, "Where's the bloody scrum half?" And what he's doing is he'll come on and run in. Very, very adept player, and that's why I'm expecting that. Even if we're not massively pushing the forwards. And it's sort of steady state, ball it's out. They're just waiting for that ball to come out, and watch. I think the game changing will be the scrum half moment and the lineouts for me. They're the 2 bits that I would be targeting against Wales. I think the centres, it goes back to the centres before. I like your centres. I think Watkin and Davis are very, very good, and I think they're having sort of Chris Farrell. We've got a sort of a real. It's a forward pushing centre partnership, and I think that goes back then to the 9-10 axis, being able to use that more. So there's lots of honestly, I can't wait. I just think it's got. I just hope it doesn't become a bloody damn squib by both coaches playing some conservative games because they're desperate for a win to stop the media and the fans and their own unions.
Yeah.
Because part of this, we got to say, part of this is also driven about by the unions want wins because it buys merchandise and it buys favoritism, it buys sponsorship and stuff like that. And there is part of that as well, and when coaches come under pressure and players therefore come under pressure. But I just hope it's going to be both sides there have got a real capability to play some open, flowing rugby, and I really hope that we see that tomorrow.
Yeah, so do I. Let's quickly then, just before we round up, go to the predictions. Let's go with Fian first. How do you see this one going?
I've been wrong every time so far. So I'm going to be wrong again. I've got to say Wales because I know the other 2 are going to say Ireland. So I'm going to go for Wales.
Okay, and Joe, predictions?
28-13 to Ireland.
I'm going to back Ireland as well. I think if Ireland get going early on, get their driving maul going and stuff like that, I think it could be curtains for us in the first 20 minutes. I really do. I think I can't see us winning it at all, which is maybe a bit negative, but I think Ireland will win this. Yeah, about 28 points to 13, as Joe said. I think that's about the correct score. But yeah, that's our predictions. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, and keep up to date with us over the Autumn Nations Cup, as we're going to try and make as much content as possible for you guys. Let's quickly say thank you to Joe. Joe, thank you so much for coming on once again.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks for everything you do.
Absolutely. And to Fian as well. Thank you for joining me again today.
No problem.
Brendan.